I did put out there this week, and it's something we hadn't done in a while. Did an Ask 3CT segment. So if you're following along in the live video, feel free to throw a question in there. We had a couple. I'll start with Devins. He got this one in late, and it's fairly topical in terms of what happened last night on NXT. He said, "What are your guys' opinion about the Velveteen Dream returning? Everybody not liking it because of what allegedly went on." I was very surprised to see the Velveteen Dream back on WWE programming. My hope is that if they brought him back, that means that they've done the legal work that they should have done to vet the accusations and see if there was anything there. Again, in the short span of time from when the accusation went out to when he is back on, personally, I'm not a fan. I think it's too quick of a turnaround. I think the situation needs to be addressed more. I'm not necessarily saying you need to fire him, but I think to bring him back and to put him, not only in the match for a qualifying spot in the North American title match, but then now he has the second chance match next week because he wasn't the one that took the fall last night. Not a fan of that decision. Myself. We'll go to Matt. How about you?
So is the question how I feel about Velveteen Dream even being in the conversation at this point?
Yeah, what's our opinion on him returning and with everything that allegedly happened?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. But as more of these stories come out, and we're kind of taking the stance of we have to kind of listen to the accusers here and nothing being disproven. I think it's in poor taste to kind of have him out at this point. Not to deny his talent, because I do think he is extremely talented, and it's a shame to see someone that you thought was really great do these kinds of things, and that's putting that lightly. So I'm not necessarily in favor of his return just yet. So it's kind of where I'll just leave that. I don't know that necessarily it's a good idea to build any long storylines around Patrick Clark, Velveteen Dream at this point until we have the answers. And as more things are coming out, it looks like the answer is going to be in the direction that we kind of think anyway.
Tim, how about you?
Someone on my timeline on Twitter kind of hit the nail on the head about it. And to paraphrase, I'm not going to say he's guilty or he's innocent, but there's a lot of damning evidence out there about the Velveteen Dream. And if any of it becomes true, then this is case in point why people don't speak out.
Yeah.
Because the company that sees money in the character and in the person forgives all sin, makes money, and does not reprimand or admonish or anything.
Right, he was off TV since In Your House a month.
But to be fair, Nia Jax was off TV for some time. Shayna Baszler was off TV.
Right,
for some time.
It wasn't even.
You don't know if it was COVID related, where because you don't have anything solid for someone that because of social distancing, you're writing shorter stories, and
Right.
it's
And I mean, that's kind of my
less
point, is like there
flexible.
wasn't a, there wasn't a clearly defined reason as to why he was it a kayfabe injury? Like, you know what I mean? He just was gone for a month. Like, it wasn't anything clearly defined. Like, I feel like, to AEW's credit, they at least came out in front and said, we suspended Sammy Guevara indefinitely. Turned out it was only about 30 days, but they at least got out in front of it and said, this is why you're not seeing this guy. I mean, we didn't see Velveteen Dream. We haven't seen Austin Theory in Seth Rollins' disciple group. But nothing's been spoken. He just disappeared. So, like, at some point, like, here's the thing: if I was a WWE shareholder, I might be a little bit more vocal about, like, hey, can we address these things? Like, what exactly is going on?
Right. Like it's just tough all around. Like
Sure.
I hope that, there's no fire with all this smoke and it's just a smoke machine.
Yeah. That's the hope.
But history, at least recent history, has told us it's not just a fireless smoke. Like,
Right.
there's
that a lot of times
something there. Like,
yeah.
whether it was innocent or if it's mistaken identity, if it's somebody who's playing as Velveteen Dream. I mean, you also have to think too, like, I don't want to like validate anything, but you may want to also look at the timeline for Velveteen Dream. He is relatively young. So, like, if he's like 19 when he's doing some of this stuff, while it is illegal, you can see where a 19-year-old might talk to a 16 or 17-year-old because the age gap isn't as big. Like, the difference between a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old is the same as a 30-year-old and a 27-year-old.
Right. And it's not justifying and
right.
what is an illegal
by no
act.
means
right.
am I trying to justify it and like anything like that. I'm trying to look into the psyche of a 19-year-old
right
young adult, like new full adult man,
right
who's got all this stardom.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you don't know how people's brains work.
Right. You went from being like dude on an indie show in Maryland to on Tough Enough, airing after Monday Night Raw. And then you're back on the indie circuit where people now know you.
Well, if you're being honest, his stardom went being on an indie in Maryland, being on Tough Enough, being on the podcast of the Millennium 3 Count Thursday.
Well, that's true.
Then NXT. Like, that's the order, okay? But I don't want to speak for him. Like, now I'm sure that, like, people change. Like, I'm not saying he's very roughly does a person stay the same when you're talking multiple years difference? Like, people learn, people grow, people change. And I hope that if any of this stuff with Velveteen Dream is true, he's remorseful, he's learned. I'm not the biggest fan of cancel culture. Like, I think that's a bit extreme. I think you hold people accountable and let them change. And if they don't change, then cancel. Right. Like Hulk Hogan right now is on 0 strikes. If he comes out and he says another terse word to literally anyone,
yeah,
HH is gone, brother. Like, that's where it is. And but some people have already shown him to the door, and I don't blame them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like individuals versus broad spectrum too, in terms of, like I'll never discredit anybody for writing somebody off for something that they have done or allegedly done or what have you. Like, but again, the cancel culture becomes a whole separate topic when it's an initial thing. And that's why I said, like, I don't necessarily think that Velveteen Dream should be fired, but to bring him back in relatively quick turnaround is what I thought was not necessarily the smartest move. Mark, your thoughts on the question here from Devin.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was probably shocked as anybody to see him back in a prominent position. And the only thing I can think of, WWE must have some kind of, or be extremely confident in his innocence. I can't understand any way, shape, or form why they put him number one back on television, number two in such a prominent role, when you literally have dozens of other superstars you could slide in that spot if they didn't feel pretty confident that he was going to be get through any kind of charges or accusations that are being thrown at him. That just doesn't make any kind of sense. That it's not like they're short on superstars. And then again, I mean, if you think back to the 80s when Vince McMahon looks like he pretty much helped Jimmy Snuka get away with murder. So it's hard to say. It not out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, you're
going to kind of
probably
get out of this.
Yeah, I mean, Dream's not the only one they're really turning a blind eye to, bro. So, they're just it's unfortunate. Like we've kind of mentioned that throughout the decades that WWE unfortunately has this stigma around them that they just turn that blind eye to a lot of horrible shit. It's just a little more prevalent now because we're in the age of social media.
And we're older.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
like,
true too.
Stuff that didn't bother us when we were kids bothers us now. Like,
I mean,
we've talked. It's been a podcast topic
yeah.
before. Like when I came out and said I'm really struggling being like a rose-colored glasses WWE fan because more and more of the shady-ish that Vince McMahon and the WWE get involved in, it just wears on me, and I feel like I'm a couple years away from just being like, I'll watch the indies, I'll watch AEW until
side of the ring and relive all this stuff that I used to like.
Yeah, like AEW until something happens with them, and like Impact, let's push Impact. Like I don't know what to do, but like it's just
and I mean, and I know today somebody had noted that AEW has removed like Jimmy Havoc and B Priestley, and I think there was one more,
Sadie Gibbs
from their roster, and I'm like, okay, I mean that's good. I mean if they're doing that because of accusations, but in the same time, are you going to do it quietly? Or are you gonna?
I don't think it's accusations. I think.
Well, I mean, again, I'm saying that because
since of B Priestley, it is to an extent.
Well, I think she was just a backstage nuisance, and like she was a backstage nuisance. Jimmy Havoc has his demons. I think didn't they send him to rehab?
Yeah, they sent him to rehab, but like,
and like they're together, so I understand you get rid of one and keep the other. That's weird. And I think Sadie Gibbs is just a case of they had nothing for her.
Sure. But
let
like
her go.
But like, are you like, I don't like just doing it quietly. Like if you're going to like, and maybe they have put out I haven't looked, but like,
they're not a public company though.
Well, I mean, that's fair. That's fair
like
as well.
WWE has to, because there's shareholders.
Well, that's a great point. That's a great point. All right, we had a couple other questions. Nick asked, do you think the Randy Orton Ric Flair angle was a swerve for SummerSlam where we could see a new champ? Somebody else brought this up either on Facebook or Twitter. And I guess they're saying like because the lights went out, that Orton didn't actually kick Flair, and that like it was to get sympathy on for Drew McIntyre feeling bad for Rick, and there it's a big swerve where Rick will end up turning on Drew, so Orton will win the title. Could it be? Okay, sure. Do I think it is? Absolutely not. Like, I think it was the continuity of the Retribution thing and the lights and the mics and all of that stuff. And also, I think it's so you don't actually punt Ric Flair in the head. Like,
where's that ding button?
Yeah, where's my ding at? Where's my ding at?
Dang.
Kobe too there, because
Yeah, like
that's a big Kobe.
Kobe.
Like, I and I give people credit for having some creative thought and looking out, but you're not gonna punt Ric Flair, like, because my thought is the whole time I thought there's no way he's giving Ric Flair an RKO, right? I'm like, because I feel like that fall could be very bad for Ric Flair.
They were so gentle with Rick.
I know.
Like, it was so like
That segment was so that segment was so good. So good. Like, Ryan is like borderline an admitted Randy Orton fan. I'm a Randy Orton 2020 fan.
This ain't blasphemy. Like, I don't want to speak out of turn, and I don't want to like carry gimmicks from my other podcast to here. But like,
You can go ahead and say it because I think I tweeted what you're about to say.
Randy Orton's the greatest of all time.
Okay, I didn't tweet that.
Like, Randy Orton, Randy Orton, if you look at his body of work, if you look at his matches, if you look at how he's mastered the in-ring WWE segment, his focus over the last 5-6 years, probably since at least when he cashed in Money in the Bank on Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam 13. From then till now, there's like nobody who does it better than Randy Orton, and he does it with multiple different people. Think of what he did with Aiden English. Think of what he did with we were clamoring for Randy Orton to get paired up with Angel Garza and Andrade because of one 6-man tag match where Randy Orton pins Angel Garza against the wall and basically like deliverances him. Is that like what happened? Like, he's like, I
don't have a squeal button.
Shut up. And like, but at the same point, like, Randy Orton has been on fire lately.
I mean, I tweeted out on Monday, and I've tweeted out before, but like, and this is where I thought you were going, because your other podcast, 2020 Randy Orton is forever in the good place.
Oh, Good Place Hall of Fame. It's
without question.
We got like 5 more months, and it's in the good place.
Yeah,
already.
like I'm like
he's working on kicking Kevin Nash out of door service at the good place. Like Kevin Nash is the doorman to the good place.
Okay.
And if you don't know, Ron and Don Harris are the doormen for the bad place.
Okay.
Noted racist.
Yeah.
Klansmen.
Yeah. Bad news.
Bad news. Harris boys. But yeah, Randy Orton is just scandal proof. Now, I'm bringing a conversation from my text chat with my other boys.
Sure.
Here. On a scale of, and the listening audience at home, you can chime in too in the chat. But Randy Orton low blows Rick and punts him. Percentage that the person who comes to the aid of Ric Flair to go head to head with Randy Orton is Charlotte Flair.
Oh.
Percentage that happens,
Yes.
0.
I'll give it 18 and a half.
22%.
You did.
18% for the number of minutes.
Mark.
The percentage of it happening?
The percentage that the person who defends Ric Flair's honor is Charlotte Flair. Not saying we get Charlotte Flair versus Randy Orton in a match, but Charlotte Flair and Randy Orton
Right,
having
but-
a face-to-face
Confrontation.
that will lead to Charlotte Flair eating an RKO.
I'll bump that up to like
Boy,
40.
I'd give that. I'll give it a 30% chance. I'd like to see it. Why not?
I'll bump.
Still 0, but I like the intention behind that. It's not far off. I just don't think they would go that route right now.
Right, especially with everything going on with like the buzzword intergender wrestling.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I think
this-
I think it would be great. It would be fantastic storytelling.
it would be probably the best WWE match in the last 20 years.
I'll say this: I would love to see it. I just don't like. Vince has been so standoffish with that type of thing so many times.
I don't know
to
though.
do
Like,
it. In this instance with Charlotte and with Randy, like that's going 0 to 60 for Vince, and Vince seems like more of a slowly put your foot down on the gas pedal type of guy. And then
are you
like,
saying that because he's like 80
Slam.
years old, Matt? That's pretty fucking rude. See, I would have agreed with you a little bit more, and Devin says he gives it about a 20%. I'll bump it up to like a 35-40 for a face-to-face with a potential RKO. It leading to an actual match, I would put somewhere around like 10. But like, I think the Bray, the Fiend, and Alexa, the thing that apparently twisted Tim's nipples a couple weeks ago on SmackDown when Bray stuffed his fingers down her throat.
But wait, more happened.
Yeah, and then last week that was
Touch
so
my face.
yeah, like, touch my face, tell me I'm pretty.
Paint me like one of your French boys, Alexa.
Didn't see that coming last week on SmackDown. But like Bray even doing that, and we're talking that's Fox broadcast. That's not even Monday Night Raw cable. I think the potential for something like that is a little more viable. Like I think, and I'm not going down the Meltz Alvarez road and talking about ratings and what they ultimately mean. But when you see things like what Retribution is, and when you see things like Raw Underground, it's evident, and you see things like The Fiend attacking Alexa Bliss, and then they're teasing all day what's going to happen between them. Tomorrow night on SmackDown, Alexa Bliss is going to address the situation. Like it's evident that they're Alexa, stop. Bitch.
Alexa, play Despacito.
Like I think that it's evident that they are trying to do some things to move the needle a bit. So I think if you have that moment, it's going to get attention, and I think it is going to draw people in. Whether, and again, I don't think they eventually get to a match, but that a face-to-face where Orton hits that RKO, that's YouTube hits, that's social media hits, etc.
I don't think that Randy's the guy they do that with. Like Bray the Fiend, that makes more sense. That seems a little safer for them to go that route. And like 5 years ago, Randy Orton, they'd probably be more likely to do that. But like Randy now, 2020 Randy, like I'm not gonna go full JBL like Tim did with Randy Orton, but he is having a very good run right now, and like I don't think that they use that moment at this point.
I
With
mean,
going on.
you also have to think though, in 2020, Randy Orton has already RKO'd WWE Hall of Famer Beth Phoenix for what he did to Edge So and Randy Orton, of any wrestler in WWE history, to my knowledge, he's RKO'd Stephanie McMahon multiple times. He's forcibly kissed an unconscious Stephanie McMahon in the face of a handcuffed Triple H. I think he RKO'd the Fabulous Moolah into the grave. But like, if anyone, like, aside from Bubba Dudley, nobody's put their hands on a woman more than Randy Orton.
Steve Austin has. I mean, he is
On camera.
No,
Wow.
I wasn't going to go with that joke. I was saying he has stunned every woman in the McMahon family.
That's true. He did get Linda, and he got Stephanie. He didn't get Aurora Rose yet. Aurora's not old enough.
She's on his list.
Wait for those Hunter girls to get older. How's your neck?
That'll be Raw 35 when that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, intern Mark, your thoughts on the Randy Orton, the Ric Flair? Is it an angle, or were they just protecting Rick from getting severely injured?
I think they're just protecting Rick. I didn't understand him pairing up with Orton. Orton really doesn't need Ric Flair. He doesn't need anybody at this point in his career. He's a made man. Yeah, I think it was totally protecting Rick. Even if Rick shows up with McIntyre, I'd really be surprised. I think he's just kind of written out off TV for now.
Okay, AEW, I guess, and thank you, Nick, for giving us this one. Has officially released Jimmy Havoc, B. Priestley, Sadie Gibbs have also confirmed her departure on Twitter. So those three are now official. And
T-Hawk, I think T-Hawk is a member of the Strong Hearts.
Okay.
With Shima, T-Hawk, and another dude that's probably gonna get released.
Who's the other dude?
Because there's three dudes in the Strong Hearts.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just trying to find. I was trying to find like an actual like a news release. And all of them are just none of the ones that I'm seeing, even from AEW employee Dave Meltzer, has the Wrestling Observer only has Havoc, Priestley, and Gibbs. It doesn't say anything about T-Hawk on those. Not saying that it's not a thing, but like I said, those are the three that I guess have officially been confirmed per Meltzer. So, and then one other question. Charlie asked, "How did everyone meet, and how did the pod get started? Who in the group said, 'Hey, I got an deal'?" Well, 6.5 years ago or something, I started doing a sports podcast, and Matt and Ryan would both help me co-host. I've known Matt and Ryan for well over 2 decades. We went to school together. And I think Ryan met Mark and Tim via work, correct? So
that is correct.
So, Ryan and Matt and I had noticed, like, on my sports podcast, we would do wrestling shows around like Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and I noticed that like those got a few more clicks at the time. So I was like, "Hey guys, got an idea. Why don't we just spin this off and do a wrestling show, and I'll still do the sports show?" And then Ryan and Ryan's favorite faction of all time is 3 Count. Like, I assume legitimately, or at least jokingly. Sometimes we can't tell with him. So we were sitting at the diner one night, like 2 a.m, and he's like, 3 Count Thursday. And I was like, there we go. So it was just the three of us for a while. And then, we needed an intern to clean up the studio and those sort of things. And Ryan knew intern Mark. And so he added him into the mix. And Tim was a former guest of the show, because you did commentary for Excellence and other things. And then after a while, we just kind of started hanging out at indie shows and whatnot. And it was like, hey, man, if you want to be part of the family, just start showing up at the studio on Thursday nights. I think that about covers it.
I think that's right.
That's the short version. And 6.5 years later, we're still pumping away.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Like, this was a well-oiled machine before we even got on, but I think, or at least we, meaning Mark and I. But I mean, we posted it not too long ago. 6.5 years strong. Ain't no signs of stopping.
Yeah.
You know, Zoom be damned trying to not let us get on Facebook.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. I actually like this setup. I may work with Big Jim off the air to kind of spruce this up, because now that we've got it set up for this, I could do fun screen transitions and other stuff, and we can do graphics. Like, I just whipped this one up not too long ago. Bye. So when we go off the air, we got all the socials and stuff on the screen.
Look at that.
And everything's there.
How about that?
That's not what we're doing right now.
Yeah, no, and I'm all for it, because like I know, like I was looking into like StreamYard versus Zoom, and like, but if we can do it through whatever the hell you're doing over there, then I'm all for it, man. But we worked with what it gave us tonight, and you know, we've taken a couple weeks off here and there. We've thrown up some best ofs and whatnot when I moved from one studio to another, and you know, and things like that. But in the same, there's the graphic. Look at that. That's awesome. Gotta love that. But you know, the bottom line is, you know, through good times, through bad times, we're here. We try and be as positive as we can. There's a lot of some of the best in the game that have arrived and left in the time that we've still been here. So I appreciate the question, Charlie. You know, I like these Ask 3CT segments. So maybe we'll try and throw one once a month and just see what people have on their mind.